The stars outside the viewport of the UNSS Resolute shimmered like silent witnesses. Commander Elias Rourke stood with his hands behind his back, gaze fixed on the slow glide of a Vedrathi courier vessel breaching Earth's orbital boundary. Its hull bore no markings but radiated the distinct energy signature of Council authority, sleek, deliberate, and meant to intimidate. "You're certain it's not a trade delegation?" Lieutenant Merrick asked, scanning the feed again. Elias didn't move. Trade ships don't use neural mind locks. The bridge crew worked quietly, tension pressing down like gravity. Notifications blinked on consoles, biosignal encryption spikes, thermal anomaly registration, faint distortions in the local quantum mesh. The Council wasn't hiding anything. They wanted Earth to know. The Vedrathi didn't speak in person. They transmitted thoughts wrapped in digital sheets. Emotionless. Sanitized. A chime echoed. Message received, Ensign Vela reported. Command grade. Not classified. Public frequency. Elias nodded. Display it. The main screen flickered, then stabilized into a sigil of the Galactic Council, 12 interwoven spirals coiling into one. A crystalline voice, cold and flawless, filled the bridge. To the Government of Earth. Under Interstellar Directive 901, Article 3B, you are hereby ordered to decommission all militarized quantum systems within 72 standard cycles. Failure to comply will initiate sterilization procedures, effective without negotiation. This is your first and final notice. No signature. No ambassador. Just policy. Sanitized extinction. Silence fell. Elias turned to Merrick. 72 cycles? Just under 11 Earth days. And they think we'll bow in 10? No, Merrick said softly. They think we'll burn. Elias exhaled through his nose. He turned to the communications console. Draft a response. Low-frequency broadcast. Civilian level. Vela blinked. Commander? That's not standard protocol. Neither is sending extermination threats in gift trap. Do it. He walked off the bridge, boots tapping against titanium alloy. The door slid shut behind him. Geneva's sky was overcast. The Earth Diplomatic Assembly, a triangular glass spire, glimmered beneath cloud-filtered sunlight. Inside, President Okoye leaned against the table's edge, fingers interlocked, watching the same message loop on her holoslab. We gave them no reason to provoke us, she said. Elias, projected before her as a flickering image from orbit, shook his head. They've been waiting for one. We simply stopped hiding. A third voice entered, dry, clipped, tired. Stopped hiding or stopped pretending? Dr. Amos Cheng, Earth's lead intelligence liaison, wore the same wrinkled coat he always did. Project Echo Talon changed their calculus. We broke the silence. Okoye didn't respond immediately. And you sent a civilian response? She's a teacher, Elias replied. Mother of two. Teaches galactic history in New Jersey. A teacher. Exactly. That's the point. Aboard the Resolute, Lieutenant Merrick hovered near the transmission bay as Earth's chosen response finished uploading. The screen showed a woman in her 40s, kind eyes, soft voice. No military uniform. Just a blouse, a book in hand. Her message was brief. We acknowledge your concern and appreciate your clarity. Earth accepts the timeline. Thank you. She smiled, then added, we've been expecting this. The screen went dark. Vela swallowed. They're going to think we've surrendered. Elias stared ahead. No. They're going to wonder why we're calm. Far across the galaxy, in the crystalline towers of Vedrathi Prime, Supreme Arbiter Krelvos leaned forward as the transmission replayed for the fourth time. He was alone now. He had dismissed the linguists, the psychological analysts, even the drone core interpreters. Humans were unpredictable. Crude. Primal. But they were not polite. He analyzed every frame. The eye contact. The inflection. The microtwitches around the subject's lips. The subtle pause before thank you. Not sarcasm. Not submission. Something else. Anticipation. He tapped a slender digit against his data plate. Elevate monitoring protocols. No alerts sent to them. Just, observe. What specifically, Supreme Arbiter, the assistant AI asked. Krelvos replied without turning. I want to know what they think we'll do next. 2 days later, Elias stood in the observation deck of the Resolute, arms crossed as Earth's moons cast long shadows across the Pacific. The Council's fleet hadn't moved. Yet. President Okoye's face hovered in a secure calm hollow beside him. We should consider at least partial compliance, she said carefully. Draw it out. Keep them nervous, but not threatened. They're already threatened, Elias replied. We're not unpredictable anymore. We're unreadable. Is that better? It's necessary. He glanced at the holoscreen as the Council's fleet signature shimmered faintly in Sol's outer shell. They're going to strike, he added. They just need an excuse. Or the illusion of one. The next day, the Council received another message from Earth, shorter, unencrypted, embedded into the galactic relay where school kids debated planetary history. A 6-year-old child was reading from a script. The Galactic Council says we're dangerous. But if they really believe that, they wouldn't threaten us. They'd just act. He paused. We're not scared. We're just wondering what took you so long. Krelvos paused the message. The assistant AI whispered, should I mark this as propaganda? No, Krelvos' voice was slow. Mark it as projection. He leaned back, for the first time unsure of what to do next. They hadn't broken protocol. They hadn't fired a shot. But somehow, Earth had already made the first move. The silence aboard UNSS Resolute was no longer tense, it was watchful. The bridge crew had grown used to it. There were no alarms, no countdowns, no war room chatter. Just a cold, mechanical calm humming through the ship like breath held for too long. Commander Elias Rourke walked through the command corridor without speaking. He didn't need to issue orders. Everything that needed doing had already been set in motion years ago. Down in engineering, they were calibrating Project Shroud. Up in communications, Earth's thank you was still rippling through Council frequencies. And across the stars, alien minds were fraying at the edges. Thousands of light years away, Supreme Arbiter Krelvos reclined in his private sanctum. The Council chamber behind him buzzed faintly, muffled behind crystalline doors. They were arguing again, openly. Vedrothi didn't argue. They conferred. But today the tone was different. Elevated. Irritated. Human. He'd isolated 5 different language dialects used in Earth's transmissions. None were coded, but none were clean. Subtle shifts in cadence, deliberate use of inflection, emotive emphasis. Emotion wasn't a language Vedrothi processed well. His aide appeared in the doorway, posture uneasy. Supreme Arbiter, the Bailiff envoy has withdrawn. Withdrawn? Krelvos frowned. From the vote? No, sir. From the Council. They cited dissonant exposure. They claim the Earth broadcasts are triggering ideological mimicry in their neural-linked youth. Krelvos stood slowly. They're infecting species with tone. His aide didn't answer. The Earth hadn't sent a virus. They had sent certainty. The kind that whispered, what if they're right? Back on Earth, Elias stood beneath the vault of the Geneva Archive. Thick, reinforced steel arched above him like a bunker for forgotten history. It wasn't listed in any public directory. It was older than most of the current cities. Dr. Amos Cheng waited at the central terminal, a series of antique holograms rotating behind him. His eyes were bloodshot. He hadn't slept. Project Echo Talon is waking up, Cheng said, gesturing toward the projection. We've registered 94 minor psychological anomalies across 12 council worlds since the transmission aired. Some of them are mimicking human speech patterns. Unintentionally. Elias folded his arms. So it's working. I don't think you understand. This wasn't supposed to be weaponized. It was meant to be a deterrent. Show them we could mirror their minds. We did more than mirror, Elias replied. We built something they never trained for, doubt. The screen displayed images, a Vedrothi diplomat stammering mid-sentence, a Bailiff administrator pausing during a press conference to rephrase himself in an oddly human rhythm. Children drawing Terran symbols on off-world colonies. A nervous laugh captured during a Kidhari court hearing, a species genetically engineered without humor. We've infected their structure, Cheng said. Not with tech. With attitude. Good, Elias said. Is it? Cheng's voice was tight. Do you remember why we started this? You were in the decade of glass. I was there too. Earth was bleeding. Dying. And we built this so we'd never be laughed at again. Elias didn't blink. Now they're not laughing. In the council chamber, Krelvos activated an emergency-only artifact, the thought mirror. A relic of pre-council times, the mirror allowed a Vedrothi leader to confront their deepest subconscious through neural interface. Most avoided it, it was considered archaic. Dangerous. But Krelvos needed clarity. The chamber dimmed. A crystalline arc extended from the console, resting against his temple. Cold light entered his mind. And then he was somewhere else. A classroom. Human children. Laughter. A woman at the front, speaking softly about civilizations that grew through pain. He blinked. Now he was falling. Smoke, ash, Terran cities torn apart by war. Billboards reading "Rebuild with us." And a child, dirty, barefoot, staring up at him, expression unreadable. The vision ended. His pulse had spiked. Sweat beaded on his skin. Impossible, he told himself. These are not my memories. But the images hadn't come from the mirror. They'd come from the Earth broadcast embedded in his subconscious, Project Shroud's secondary effect. It didn't show what Earth wanted him to see. It showed what he feared they'd become. Meanwhile, on the dark side of Luna, technicians in black sealed the final casing on Earth's only visible defense, the Theta Array. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a signal amplifier. A projector. It didn't fire lasers or launch missiles. It sent suggestions, timed pulses of audio-emotive patterns, specifically tuned to the galactic standard for diplomatic neural receivers. If the Council struck, the array would activate. Every ship, every ambassador, every diplomat across the Orion Arm would hear the same sentence whispered into their thoughts. You should have left them alone. Elias returned to the bridge. Vela glanced up. Council ship is still holding. Good, he replied. Let them. Commander, Merrick said, tone cautious. There's a broadcast from inside Council space. It's not encrypted. Not political. Ah, poem. Elias raised a brow. A poem? Yes, sir. Written by a Sorgathy student. It ends with, the ones we feared were not the monsters we imagined. They were the mirror we avoided. Elias's lips thinned. He turned to Vela. Schedule a press release. From Earth's civilian broadcast net. What kind of message? He didn't look away from the stars. Just a question. Hours later, across the galaxy, children on 100 planets tuned into the popular broadcast band where Earth often uploaded cultural content. The screen was simple, black background, white text, soft Terran piano playing in the background. Then a single line appeared. What makes you so sure we haven't already won? In the council chambers, another species, the fractal-voiced iridex, motioned to postpone the sterilization protocol. We no longer understand what we're fighting, they said. Krelvos sat in silence, watching the votes shift. Humanity hadn't fired. They hadn't threatened. But something inside the council had started to bend. And no one knew when it would break. The Galactic Council's first response fleet shimmered into Sol's outer system like a tide of silver. 900 vessels, Vedrothi dreadnoughts, Baelith warcores, Iridex prism scouts, each ship perfectly aligned, discipline incarnate. No message preceded them. No warning. Just presence. A quiet declaration of power. Commander Elias Rourke stood aboard UNSS Resolute, watching them arrive. The orbital interface lit up with proximity pings and fleet triangulations. But no alarms sounded. No shields were raised. He simply said, "Let them get close." Lieutenant Merrick nodded grimly. "They won't ask twice." "They already did," Elias replied. At the Council Fleet Command, deep within the Vedrothi flagship Carnex, Supreme Arbiter Krelvos observed Earth through an emotionless lens. The Terrans had made no military move. No defensive broadcasts. No calls for ceasefire. They had simply stayed quiet. "Begin forward drift," Krelvos ordered. "Maintain formation. Prepare sterilization cycle. No communication until discharge." His command ship pulsed with bioneural lights. The sterilization protocols were already spooling: planetary-scale nanite dispersal, electromagnetic scouring, and memory suppression waves for surviving colonies. This wasn't war. It was a reset. Then the first anomaly hit. On the second rotation past Neptune, every Council ship received a priority alert. Not from Earth. From themselves. Emergency overrides flashed across their screens, crew heart rates rising, irregular neural activity, sporadic internal system flickers. In Carnex, Krelvos' helmsman turned, voice shaking. "Sir, something's inside the mesh. Not viral. Conceptual. Speak clearly. It's ideas. Bleeding through from the outer feed relay. Earth isn't jamming us. They're broadcasting identities." Krelvos narrowed his eyes. "Explain." The officer's voice lowered. "They're showing us. But broken." On the Resolute, Ensign Vela monitored the Theta Array's pulse feed. The device wasn't firing energy. It was mirroring thought. Project Echo Talon had evolved, its final iteration encoded not fear, not threat, but recognition. Across the Council fleet, every ship began experiencing flashes, private, custom-tailored. A Vedrothi commander saw his queen die in his arms. An Iridex pilot wept over a memory that didn't exist. A Baelith captain lost language mid-sentence. None of it was real. None of it was false. Echo Talon's real power wasn't destruction, it was precision-targeted emotional reflection, drawn from telemetry, intercepted transmissions, and subtle cultural modeling gathered over 50 years. Humanity didn't build a weapon to fight fleets. They built one to fracture certainty. Back aboard Carnex, Krelvos stood amid chaos. His officers were slipping. Not from pain, but from doubt. The room swam with broken protocol, raised voices, movement without order, failure to complete sentences. He gripped the edge of his command station. "Reactivate sterilization." No one moved. He turned sharply. "That is a direct command." A junior officer looked up. "Sir, what if they're right? What if we've always been the threat?" The silence was immediate. Krelvos stared at him. "You've been infected." The officer met his gaze. "No, sir. I've been awakened." Elias watched the fleet unravel. "Status?" he asked. Vela replied without looking up. "Multiple Council ships disengaging. Their AI cores are self-isolating. Vedrothi primary fleet split into two logic forks, some are returning, some are just floating." Merrick added, "We're tracking desertions. There's no fire. Just silence." Elias nodded. "That's the kill shot." He tapped the console and opened a wideband channel, public, raw, direct. No encryption. No ceremony. Just a man standing on Earth's edge. The Council ships received the transmission. Elias stood before a broken monument on the old Martian surface, an unlit obelisk commemorating Earth's worst war. Behind him, only dust and ruin. He spoke simply. You threatened to erase us. And we didn't resist. A pause. Not because we're weak. But because we needed you to come closer. He walked slowly past the fractured stone. You assumed our danger came from weapons, from chaos, from unpredictability. But what you never considered, what you never prepared for, was that we understood you. His eyes lifted to the stars. You can break bones. But you cannot survive reflection. That's why your fleets are shattering. The feed ended. On Council homeworlds, riots began, not violent, but philosophical. Cultural foundations began to crack. Students questioned authority. Priests abandoned doctrine. In hives that had been mentally unified for centuries, individuals began to feel separate. No one declared war. No one surrendered. The war simply ceased to exist. In the aftermath, Earth sent no demands. No envoys. No fleet. Instead, they published everything. Their archives. Their failures. Their rise from ashes. The theta pulses stopped. The silence returned. But this time, the galaxy was listening to the quiet differently. A month later, in a reassembled council chamber, now fractured and leaderless, the Iridex delegate broke protocol and spoke without being called. There is a question we must face. No one objected. The Iridex leaned forward. What if they are not monsters, but mirrors? On Earth, Elias Rourke retired quietly. No parades. No medals. Just a desk drawer where he kept a child's drawing, one he received years ago from a colony orphan after the decade of glass. A single sentence scribbled beneath it. We don't have to win the war if we become the reason it never starts. He closed the drawer. The stars kept turning. But the galaxy had changed. Forever.